The twin suns of planet Varnes burned over wide deserts and deep blue canyons. The land was old, filled with ruins of forgotten times. Long ago, the people of Varnes believed they had once met strange travelers from the stars. Those travelers were called humans. But after many centuries, no one had ever seen one. Their stories had faded into myths told by old singers. The children of Varnes heard songs about the fire warriors, beings who fought darkness and protected weaker worlds. Most adults laughed at the idea. To them, humans were just old tales, nothing more. Mira was not like most of her people. She was young, curious, and brave. She worked as an explorer for the Varnian Archive Guild. Her job was to search for ancient things buried under the sands and record them for history. She loved finding hidden relics because each one carried a story from the past. Many explorers stayed near the big cities, but Mira always went far into the deep desert where no one else dared to travel. One morning, she guided her sand glider over the dunes. Her navigation screen showed a faint energy signal buried under the sand. She followed it for hours until the winds began to rise. The sky turned orange, and a storm started forming at the horizon. Mira pushed her glider forward, hoping to reach the source before the storm hit. When she arrived, her eyes widened. Half buried in red sand was a giant metal shape. Its surface was covered in dust, but parts of it still gleamed faintly in the sun. She landed her glider beside it and stepped down. The air smelled of rust and dry heat. Mira brushed away the sand and found markings she had never seen before. The letters were not Varnian. They were straight and sharp, unlike her people's flowing script. She recorded them in her scanner. The scanner translated a few broken words. It said Terran Defense Fleet. Mira froze. The word Terran was known only from legends. The songs spoke of Terrans, the humans who once fought the great alien invaders. She felt a chill. Maybe she had just found proof that the legends were true. The storm grew louder, and the wind began to whip sand around her. She hurried to find a way inside the metal structure. After some searching, she found a sealed door half covered in sand. She used her energy cutter to open it. The door slid aside with a heavy groan. Mira stepped inside, holding her light crystal high. The air inside was cold and dry. She found long corridors, strange machines, and symbols on the walls. Some lights still flickered weakly, as if refusing to die even after centuries, as she moved deeper inside. She noticed broken seats and rusted panels. This was not a building, but a ship, a massive warship that had crashed long ago. She could almost imagine what it looked like in its prime, filled with humans in shining armor, flying across the stars. She felt small and awed. Her scanner beeped again, showing a faint life signal deep inside the ship. She stopped. That was impossible. No one could live here for centuries. Yet the signal was there, weak but steady. Mira followed it carefully through dark halls until she entered a large chamber. At the center stood several glass pods. Most were shattered, filled with dust and bones, but one pod still glowed faintly. Inside it lay a figure wearing a suit of metal armor. The face was hidden behind a cracked helmet, but the body looked like that of her own kind, 2 arms, 2 legs, a familiar shape. Yet something about it was different. The form was heavier, stronger. She moved closer and wiped the frost from the glass. The face inside was pale, with short hair and a scar on the cheek. It was not Varnian. It was human. Mira's heart began to race. She had studied legends of humans since childhood, but she'd never imagined she would see one. She checked the pod's control panel. The symbols were strange, but she could guess their purpose. The readings showed the human was still alive, though weak. She hesitated. Should she open it? What if it was dangerous? But the idea of leaving a living being trapped for eternity felt wrong. She pressed the switch. The pod hissed loudly, and cold mist poured out. Mira stepped back, covering her face. The figure inside twitched, then coughed. The helmet released a burst of air and opened. The man inside took a long breath and looked around. His eyes were sharp and confused. Mira stared at him, frozen in shock. The human slowly sat up, groaning in pain. His voice came out rough and deep. "Where am I?" he asked. Myra took a step forward. "You are on planet Varnies," she said softly. "You have been asleep for a very long time." The man looked around the dusty chamber. "Varnies," he repeated. "I remember that name. We came here during the war. How long has it been?" Mira checked her scanner and answered, "The records say no humans have been seen for more than 300 years. The man went silent. His eyes dimmed with sadness. "Then the war is over," he said. "Or maybe we lost." Mira did not know what to say. She helped him stand. His armor was heavy, marked with battle scars. The symbols on his shoulder read Rian. He was taller than her, though clearly weak from the long sleep. She offered him water from her pack. He drank slowly, then thanked her. "I thought humans were only legends," Mira said carefully. "Our people sing songs about your kind. They say humans fought the dark races with great courage." Rian gave a faint smile. "Legends, huh? I suppose that is all we are now." "The Terran Defense Fleet fought to protect the colonies. We faced enemies who wanted to erase every trace of human life. I guess they nearly succeeded." He looked around at the broken ship and sighed. Mira felt sympathy for him. To wake up in a world where everything you knew was gone was a cruel fate. She asked him what he would do now. Rian said he did not know yet. He wanted to see what had become of the galaxy, as the storm outside grew worse. Mira decided to bring him to her shelter inside the ship. She helped him walk through the corridors. He moved slowly, still weak, but his eyes watched everything carefully. Even after centuries, his instincts were sharp. He asked her about her people, their cities, and their technology. Mira told him that the Varnians had lived in peace for a long time. They built great crystal towers, studied the stars, and avoided war. Rian listened quietly, then said, "Peace is good. But peace without strength can be dangerous." His words made Mira think. She had never heard anyone speak like that before. In her world, war was seen as a thing of the past, something barbaric. Yet there was something in his tone that carried truth. He had seen things she could not imagine. When the storm passed, Mira led him to the surface. The red sand stretched to the horizon. The two suns glowed high in the sky. Rian shielded his eyes and looked around. "This world is still beautiful," he said. "Not all things fade." They returned to her glider, and she offered to take him to the city. Rian refused. He said it was not wise to reveal himself yet. The Varnians might fear him or study him like an ancient artifact. He asked Mira to keep his presence secret for now. She agreed. Something inside her told her this man was important. He was living history. She could not let harm come to him that night. As they rested near a small campfire inside the old ship, Rian told her a few things about the past. He spoke of Earth, a blue world with oceans and green lands. He described great cities and skies filled with human ships. He told her about the War of Seven Suns, when alien races joined together to destroy humanity. The Terran fleet fought until the end. His ship had been part of the final mission to protect a refugee convoy. They had jumped through a collapsing wormhole and crashed on Varnies. The rest of his crew had not survived. Mira listened with wonder. She had never heard such stories told by someone who lived them. She realized the legends were real, and the truth was even greater than the songs. When he finished speaking, Rian stared into the fire and said, "If humans are gone, then maybe I am the last one. But as long as I live, our story is not finished." Mira looked at him with new respect. The firelight shone on his scarred face, and for the first time, she understood why the old songs called humans warriors of light. They were not powerful because of their weapons, but because of their will. She promised herself she would help him in any way she could. As the night deepened, the wind outside grew calm. The stars of Varnies shone bright above the open desert. Mira lay awake, thinking about what she had found. The legends had walked out of the past and stood before her in flesh and blood. She wondered what the future would bring now that the last human warrior had awakened. When morning came, the suns rose over the red dunes, painting the desert in gold. Mira packed her gear, while Rian stood at the edge of the old warship's ramp. His eyes followed the horizon as if he was searching for something he had lost. He looked tired but stronger than before. The night's rest had helped him recover a little. The desert wind moved through his short hair, and the smell of dry sand filled the air. Mira handed him a water pack. "You should drink more," she said. "The heat is strong here." Rian nodded and took a sip. "Thank you," he said. "Your world has not changed much since I last saw it. The sky is still the same color." "You have been here before?" she asked. "Yes," Rian said quietly. "During the war, we came to help the Varnian colonies when the Dreth fleets attacked. Your people fought beside us then. They were brave." Mira listened with interest. She had heard stories of the Dreth, a shadowy alien race that destroyed entire planets long ago. In her time, they were spoken of as old monsters that vanished into deep space. "No one has seen the Dreth for centuries," she said. "They are gone now." Rian shook his head. "They are never truly gone. The Dreth do not stop. They hide, rebuild, and strike again when no one expects it. If they still exist, they will return." His words made Myra uneasy. She tried to hide her worry, but he noticed. "Do not fear," he said. "You have peace now. Keep it, but never forget how to defend it." Mira packed her scanner and tools. "We should return to the city," she said. "I can bring you to the Archive Guild. They will help you." Nguyen's face turned serious. "No," he said. "If I show myself too soon, your leaders will not understand. They might see me as a danger or a relic to study. I need time to learn what this new world has become." Myra thought for a moment, then nodded. "You can stay with me," she said. "I live in the outer camp near the ridge. No one visits there." Rian gave a small smile. "You are kind, Mira. I owe you my life." She guided him to her sand glider, and together they left the wreck behind. The glider moved smoothly across the dunes, leaving a long trail behind them. The desert stretched far and wide, with crystal stones glimmering under the suns. Rian sat silently, his eyes scanning the sky as if expecting something to appear. Mira glanced at him several times. There was something about him that felt heavy, like he carried the weight of many lost years. When they reached her camp, Rian looked around. The shelter was built of stone and metal panels, small but strong. Mira helped him inside. He sat near the energy heater while she prepared food. The smell of warm roots filled the air. She handed him a bowl, and he tasted it slowly. "It is different from what I remember," he said, "but good." Mira smiled. "It is all we have. Varnies has changed much since your time." "I can see that," Rian said. "Your people have forgotten war." "That is a good thing," Mira replied. "Maybe," Rian said softly. "But peace without readiness is fragile." After they ate, Rian explored the small camp. He found her collection of artifacts, old tools, crystals, and metal scraps from forgotten ages. He touched one of the broken human devices she had found years ago. "This was made by us," he said. "You have been studying our remains." Mira nodded. "I always believed humans were real. Everyone laughed at me, but I kept looking. Now I have proof." He looked at her and said, "Belief is the first step toward truth. You have the heart of an explorer. Never lose it." Later that day, Rian began to test his strength. He walked outside, practiced breathing, and stretched his arms. His armor was too damaged to wear fully, but he kept the chest piece and wrist guards. Mira watched him from a distance. Even weak, his movements were sharp and disciplined. He had the air of someone who had trained his whole life. When the suns began to set, he sat on a rock, breathing slowly. Mira joined him. "What will you do now?" she asked. "I will rebuild," Rian said. "This body has slept too long. My muscles are weak, but my mind is clear. I must become a soldier again." "Why?" Mira asked. "There is no war here." He looked at her, his eyes calm but strong. "Because I am what I was made to be. A protector. The universe is never safe for long." Ira could not argue. Something in his tone carried deep truth. She had seen her people grow lazy in their peace. trusting machines to do all their work. They no longer trained or learned to fight. Maybe they had forgotten what true courage meant. That night, as the stars rose, Rian sat beside the heater, repairing a broken weapon he had taken from the ship. Mira brought him more light crystals and asked about his life before the war. He told her he was part of the Terran Defense Fleet, trained since youth to fight for Earth and its colonies. His unit had faced the Dreth in many battles. He spoke of his comrades, of bravery and loss, of worlds that no longer existed. His voice carried pain but also pride. Mira listened with silent awe. She could see that he missed his people deeply. Every memory was a piece of a world that had vanished. When he finished speaking, she said, "Maybe you can build a new life here." He smiled sadly. "Maybe, but I cannot forget what I am. If danger comes again, I will not hide." The next few days passed quietly. Rian began to adapt to the new world. Mira taught him about Varnian technology, the languages, and the cities. He learned fast. His mind was sharp, and he understood machines better than anyone she had met. He helped her repair broken equipment and even improved her glider's engine. In return, he taught her old human tactics, how to think in battle, how to stay calm under pressure, how to read an enemy's move. She was not a soldier, but she found his lessons fascinating. One morning, while they were working near the camp, the ground shook slightly. Mira looked up and saw a light in the sky. It moved fast, leaving a trail of fire behind it. She thought it was a meteor, but Rian's face turned dark. "That is not a meteor," he said. "That is a ship entering atmosphere." "A ship from where?" "I do not know," Rian said, "but we must be careful." The object crashed in the far desert, leaving a column of smoke. Mira wanted to go and see, but Rian stopped her. "We do not know who they are," he said. "If it is the Dreth, we cannot face them yet." Mira hesitated. "You said the Dreth were gone." "I said they never stop," Rian replied. "If they have returned, your world is in danger." They waited until night before moving toward the crash site. Rian carried a small pulse rifle he had rebuilt, while Mira used her scanner to track the energy. When they reached the place, they saw black metal wreckage burning quietly. Strange marks glowed on the hull. Rian crouched and touched one of them. His face turned grim. "This is Dreth design," he said. "They are here." Mira felt her heart sink. "How many?" "I cannot say," Rian said. "This might be a scout craft. But if scouts are here, the fleet will follow." They searched the wreck and found traces of movement. Whoever had been inside had survived and fled. Rian studied the ground and pointed at claw marks. "They are heading toward your city," he said. "We must warn your leaders." Mira shook her head. "They will not believe me. They will think I am imagining things." "Then we must show them proof," Rian said. "We need to find the creature first." They followed the tracks for hours until dawn approached. They found signs of blood and torn metal. It seemed one of the creatures had been wounded. Rian moved silently, holding his weapon ready. Mira stayed close, her scanner sweeping the area. The air grew tense. Then, from behind a rock, a shadow leaped out. Rian fired quickly. The blast lit up the night, revealing a tall, dark shape with glowing red eyes. The creature shrieked and fell to the ground. Mira gasped. The Dreth was real. Its skin was black and hard, its limbs long and sharp. Rian approached slowly and made sure it was dead. "Now you believe me," he said. Mira nodded, still shaking. "If there are more, the city is not ready." "They're never ready," Rian said. "But we will prepare them. I will teach your people to fight again." He lifted the fallen Dreth's weapon and studied it. "They have changed," he said. "Stronger, smarter. This will not be easy." Mira looked at him. The firelight from the crashed ship reflected in his eyes. In that moment, she understood why humans were called warriors of legend. He stood tall and fearless, even when facing an enemy from his nightmares. "What will you do now?" she asked. Rian looked toward the rising suns. "We fight, and we remind your world what courage means." Mira felt her fear fade. She knew her people had forgotten how to defend themselves, but maybe this man could awaken their strength again. The legend of human warriors was alive, standing right beside her. And soon all of Varnes would know that the stories were true. The twin sons of Varnes rose slowly, casting long shadows over the desert. The red sand still carried the marks of the night's battle. The dead Dreth lay near the rocks, its dark armor cracked and smoking. Mira stood beside it, unable to look away. She had grown up hearing stories about these monsters, believing they were long gone. Now one of them lay dead before her eyes. Her hands trembled, but her eyes were wide with awe and fear. Rian was already working. He knelt near the body, scanning its armor and weapons. His face showed no fear, only focus. He handled the alien metal carefully, studying its marks. "They have changed," he said in a calm voice. "Their armor is lighter, their weapons more advanced. They must have been hiding somewhere building again." Mira tried to steady her voice. "If this is just one scout, there could be more." Rian stood and looked toward the horizon. "There will be more," he said. "The Dreth never sent one alone. They move in packs or small groups before the main fleet arrives. We have little time." Mira's heart began to beat faster. "Then we must warn the city. The council has to know." Rian turned to her. "You said they will not believe you? Will they believe you now?" She nodded slowly. "If I show them this body, they will have to," Rian agreed. Together they covered the Dreth body with a sheet of metal and loaded it onto Mira's sand glider. The morning air was sharp and hot as they started toward the city. The glider sped across the desert, leaving a trail of dust behind. Rian sat silently, his weapon across his knees, his eyes watching the sky. After hours of travel, the tall crystal towers of Varnes Prime appeared in the distance. The city shone under the suns, its blue-white walls reflecting light like glass. Mira guided the glider toward a service gate at the edge of the city to avoid attention. Once they landed, Rian helped her cover his armor with a desert cloak. Even if humans were myths here, she did not want to cause panic. They entered the lower district, where the workers and explorers lived. People stared at Rian curiously, but said nothing. Mira led him to the Archive Guild Tower, a large building filled with old records and researchers. Inside, she met Ellen, her senior archivist, a tall woman with silver skin marks that showed her rank. "Mira, you were gone for days," Ellen said sharply. "The guild was about to send a search team." Mira bowed slightly. "Forgive me. I found something important, something from the old wars." Ellen frowned. "More broken metal?" "No," Mira said. "Something alive. Something dangerous." Rian stepped forward and lowered his hood. Gasps filled the room. The workers nearby stepped back, staring at him. His face was human, his armor strange and old. "This cannot be," Ellen whispered. "A human? That is impossible," Rian spoke calmly. "It is possible. I am Rian of the Terran Defense Fleet, and your world is in danger." Ellen looked at Mira, uncertain if this was a trick. Mira took her by the arm and led her outside to the glider. When she lifted the metal sheet, Ellen froze. The body of the Dreth lay beneath, dark and menacing, even in death. Its armor still glowed faintly with strange runes. "What is this?" she asked. "This," Rian said, "is the enemy that destroyed many worlds. It has returned. You must prepare your people." Ellen looked shaken. "This cannot be real. The Dreth are gone. Our records say they vanished." "Your records are wrong," Rian said. "They only vanished because we stopped them long ago. But peace made the galaxy forget. They have come back." Len turned to Mira. "We must take this to the council chamber. Only they can decide what to do." The council chamber was in the heart of the city, guarded by crystal soldiers and bright shields. Mira and Rian followed Ellen through the streets. People stared and whispered, wondering who the tall stranger was. Some called out that he looked like the figures from old murals. The word human spread quickly. By the time they reached the chamber, a small crowd had gathered. Inside, the council sat in a half-circle of shining chairs. The High Speaker, an older Varnian named Turen, looked down at them. His voice was calm but cold. "Mira, of the Archive Guild," he said. "You bring strange claims today." Mira bowed. "Honored Council, I found proof in the desert. A human soldier and a Dreth scout. The old wars are not finished. The chamber murmured in disbelief. Rian stepped forward unafraid. His deep voice filled the hall. I am Rian, once of the Terran Defense Fleet. I fought the Dreth when they first came. They are back. I saw their ship crash in your desert. If you do not act, your world will fall, as many others did. Tauren frowned. You expect us to believe a man from legend has returned from the dead? Ellen stepped in. The body is real. I saw it with my own eyes. We can test it. Tauren hesitated. Even if this is true, our defense systems are strong. We have peace treaties with the nearby systems. Rian's tone grew sharp. Treaties will not save you. The Dreth do not make deals. They only destroy, the council members whispered among themselves. Some looked afraid, others doubtful. At last, Tauren said, We will examine the creature and study the ship. Until then, no action will be taken. We do not want panic. Rian clenched his fist but held his anger. Mira could see he was frustrated. After the meeting, they were escorted out. Outside the chamber, he turned to her. They will do nothing, he said. By the time they act, it may be too late. Mira nodded sadly. Our leaders believe in peace above all. They will not prepare unless they see danger with their own eyes. Rian looked toward the sky. Then we must show them. Over the next few days, he began to train Myra in secret. They used an empty warehouse near the edge of the city. He taught her how to hold a weapon, how to move silently, and how to aim. She was clumsy at first, but she learned fast. Rian had patience and a steady voice. He also began to gather information from the crashed Dreth ship. Mira helped him connect her tools to its power core. They found data fragments showing that the Dreth had sent several more ships into the sector. Rian looked at the readings. They are spreading scouts across nearby worlds, he said. Varnies is one of their targets. They are preparing to attack. Myra felt a chill. We must tell the council again. They will not believe numbers, Rian said. They will believe fire. The next night, alarms rang through the city. The sky lit up with red trails. Small, dark ships were descending fast. The city's shields began to flicker as explosions struck the outer districts. Panic spread through the streets. Mira ran to the balcony and saw bright flashes over the desert. The Dreth had come sooner than expected. Rian grabbed his armor and weapon. Stay behind me, he said. This is only the beginning. They raced to the defense tower. The guards were confused, trying to understand what was happening. Rian took control quickly, giving orders with confidence. Raise the shields, he said. Activate the anti-orbital guns. Move the civilians underground. The guards hesitated, surprised by his tone, but Mira shouted, Do what he says. He knows how to fight them. Her words carried weight because of her guild rank. Soon the soldiers began to obey. Outside, the first wave of Dreth attack craft landed near the city's edge. Rian climbed to the roof and aimed his rifle. He fired at the nearest ship, hitting its engine. It exploded, lighting up the sky. The crowd below cheered, though fear still filled their faces. Mira stood beside him, scanning the horizon. There are too many, she said. The city cannot hold, and we fight until it can, Rian said. You have to show your people that the legends were real. Courage spreads faster than fear. They fought through the night. The Dreth soldiers advanced, black armor glinting under the flames. Rian moved with the skill of an old warrior, hitting targets with perfect aim, giving commands that turned confusion into order. Mira relayed his words through the communication lines. The defenders began to believe in him. They shouted his name, calling him the human warrior. By dawn, the first wave of the Dreth had been pushed back. The city still stood, though parts were damaged and burning. The people gathered in the streets, cheering the defenders. Rian stood on the wall, watching the horizon. His armor was scorched, his face marked with dust. But his eyes were calm. Tauren and the council arrived, seeing the aftermath with their own eyes. He looked at Rian with a mix of fear and respect. You were right, he said quietly. The enemy has returned. Rian turned to him. Now you must choose. Either prepare to fight or wait for the next wave and lose everything. Torin nodded slowly. We will prepare. You have our full support. Mira smiled with relief. The people of Varnes were no longer blind. They had seen the truth. The legend had returned not as a story, but as a man who stood between them and destruction. That evening, the city honored the defenders. Mira stood beside Rian as lights filled the sky. For the first time in centuries, her people spoke proudly of warriors again. She looked at him and said, "You have changed us already." Rian looked at the cheering crowd. "I only reminded them who they once were." He knew the battle was not over. The Dreth had only begun their assault. But for the first time, Varnes was ready to fight. And as long as he stood with them, hope would not fade. The skies over Varnes burned red as the Dreth ships returned. The city lay in partial ruins, its crystal towers scorched in places, but the spirit of the people had changed. The citizens who once trusted only peace now understood the value of courage. Mira moved through the streets, helping those who had been displaced by the first attack. Children clung to their parents, their eyes wide with fear. Adults hurried to reinforce broken walls, moving with determination they had not shown in generations. All around them, Rian was preparing for the next wave. His armor was patched with pieces of Varnian metal. He carried weapons that combined human design with Varnian energy tech. Rian's presence alone inspired confidence. Soldiers who had hesitated now stood straighter, their hands steady. Mira followed him to the defense tower, carrying a portable scanner. He studied the Dreth ships approaching from the horizon, pointing at each one. "They are sending smaller squads first," he said. "The main fleet is still out there. We must hit these scouts before they reach the city's heart." Mira nodded. "What is your plan?" Rian's eyes were calm but sharp. "We split. I will lead the front defense and you will coordinate the city's shields and energy barriers. Do not underestimate your people. They will follow orders if you give them courage." The city's council had finally agreed to act under his guidance. Torin, the High Speaker, stood with them in the tower. He glanced nervously at the dark horizon, then at Rian. "Are you certain this will work?" He asked. Rian nodded. "It will, if your people trust me and act quickly. The Dreth will test them first. If we show strength, they will hesitate." The first Dreth squad landed near the outer walls. Their black armor glinted under the suns, their long weapons glowing red. Rian stepped onto the outer platform and shouted commands. His voice carried over the battlefield, clear and firm. "Defenders, stand your ground. Do not fear them. We fight as one." The Varnian soldiers stiffened, then moved to their positions. Rian fired at the leading Dreth, his shots precise. One of the creatures fell before it could aim. The others hesitated, surprised by the speed and accuracy of the human warrior. Mira activated the city's energy shields in coordination with Rian's commands. Beams of light deflected the incoming blasts. Protecting key structures and citizens below, Rian moved through the battlefield like a shadow, appearing where needed most. He leapt from one wall to another, firing at the Dreth and giving orders. He coordinated Varnian defenses with skill Mira had never seen. Soldiers who had been unsure of themselves now moved with precision, following his strategy. Mira adjusted shields and relayed his orders through communication channels. The city's defense became a single living system with Rian at its center. Hours passed, and the battle intensified. The Dreth were relentless, striking with new tactics. They deployed small flying drones to bypass barriers and attack from above. Rian quickly adapted, pointing out weaknesses in their formation. "Use the high towers," he shouted. "Fire down on them before they reach the streets." Varnian soldiers climbed to strategic points and began firing with energy rifles. The drones fell, one by one, under their focused fire. Mira felt a thrill of excitement. Her people had never fought like this before. Rian's guidance had turned fear into determination. The Dreth realized their scouts were failing and began deploying their main assault units. Larger ships hovered above, bristling with weapons. Their shadows covered wide areas, and heat from their engines set the desert sand glowing. Mira's heart pounded as she watched Rian signal the defenders to focus on slowing the advance. "Do not let them divide your attention," he yelled. "Hold the line. The battle became more intense. Rian faced the Dreth directly, moving through clusters of enemy soldiers with incredible speed and precision. Each action seemed deliberate, each strike carefully measured. He struck with the confidence of someone who had survived countless battles. Mira had never seen courage like this before. It was not fearlessness, but control over fear and the ability to inspire others. Around him, Varnian soldiers began to chant encouragement, their confidence rising as they saw their human warrior stand tall against impossible odds. Meanwhile, Myra coordinated energy barriers to protect the civilians. She worked quickly, adjusting power flows to reinforce weak points and redirect attacks. Rian noticed her actions and shouted, "Excellent. Keep them steady. Do not let panic control you." Mira felt her own courage grow as she saw the people around her working together, following orders, learning what strength felt like. By mid-afternoon, the Dreth had been forced to retreat temporarily. Their ships lifted off, regrouping for another strike. The defenders cheered, but Rian knew the battle was not over. He called for reinforcements from nearby districts and sent scouts to locate hidden enemy units. Mira and the council realized the city had survived its first real test. Fear had been replaced with determination. Even the older citizens who had doubted Rian at first now watched in awe. Rian addressed the council, standing on a raised platform. "This is only the beginning. The Dreth will return stronger, and we must be ready. Your people have courage now, but courage alone is not enough. You must train, prepare, and defend. I will teach you." Torn stepped forward. "We trust you. Whatever guidance you offer, we will follow." Rian nodded. "Then we begin immediately. Every citizen who can fight will be trained. Every soldier will learn strategy. The Dreth may have power, but courage and discipline can match them." Over the next several days, Rian worked tirelessly. He trained groups of Varnian soldiers in human combat techniques adapted to their physiology. He taught them to move in coordinated formations, to anticipate attacks, and to act without fear. Mira assisted him, learning alongside the trainees and helping to organize logistics. Together, they built a network of scouts, patrols, and emergency defenses. During training, Rian shared stories of human warriors, explaining how humans fought not only with weapons, but with teamwork, strategy, and spirit. The soldiers listened intently, inspired by both the stories and Rian's example. Even Mira, who had never held a weapon in battle before, began to understand the principles of courage and control. She learned how to stay calm in danger, how to observe and react, and how to inspire others. Rian noticed her quick progress and smiled. "You have the mind of a leader," he said. "Do not forget it." As the city prepared, Rian also worked on technology. He studied the wreckage of the Dreth ships and began devising new weapons and defenses using a combination of human and Varnian knowledge. He enhanced energy shields, built advanced targeting systems, and modified rifles to fire with improved accuracy. Myra helped him adapt the designs to what could be produced locally. Each small victory increased the city's confidence. Weeks passed, and the Dreth returned. This time they came in larger numbers, more organized, and with faster ships. They expected to crush the city as they had done countless others. But Rian was ready. He led the defenses with precision, coordinating artillery, energy shields, and soldier formations. Myra relayed his commands, helping maintain order and morale. The battle was intense. But unlike before, the defenders did not panic. Citizens joined in wherever possible, helping with logistics, medical aid, and even defending small points under Rian's guidance. Varnian soldiers fought with skill and coordination they had never known. The Dreth were taken by surprise. They had not expected a city to respond with such unity and determination. Rian's presence inspired every defender. Each human move was precise, every command clear, and each action strengthened the others. By evening, the Dreth retreated once more. Their ships were damaged and their soldiers exhausted. Mira and the council watched from a tower as Rian walked through the city streets, inspecting defenses and encouraging citizens. His armor was battered, but his posture remained strong. He spoke quietly to Mira. They will learn respect for courage soon. This is how legends begin, not with tales, but with action. Mira felt a warmth in her chest. She had seen fear turn into strength, doubt turn into belief. The city was alive with energy, and hope had returned. For the first time in centuries, humans were not myths. They were real, and their courage had sparked a change in the hearts of Varnian people. As night fell, the city lit up with fires and lanterns. Mira stood beside Rian on a high balcony. She looked at him and said, "You have changed everything here. The people will never forget today." Rian looked at the glowing city, the people moving and rebuilding, ready to fight if needed. "It is not me alone," he said. "It is all of you. I only reminded you of what you already had." Courage was here, waiting to awaken. Mira nodded, understanding what he meant. The human warrior had risen not just to fight the Dreth, but to teach a forgotten world how to stand strong. Legends were no longer stories. They had returned in the form of action, bravery, and the will to protect. The desert winds blew gently across the city, carrying the promise of new beginnings. Rian and Mira looked toward the horizon, knowing the Dreth would not give up easily. But for the first time, Varnies would be ready to face them. The rise of the human warrior had begun, and the people had found their courage. The warning sirens echoed across the sky of Navarra. Red lights flashed over the silver buildings, and people ran to shelters as the message played again and again. The Zuroth fleet had entered their orbit. Dozens of massive warships appeared in the clouds like dark monsters. Their glowing eyes aimed down at the planet that dared to hide a human in the middle of the chaos. Aaron stood on the balcony of the council tower watching the sky. His face was calm, his eyes focused. Rena stood beside him, trying to keep her fear under control. She had never seen war before. The people of her world had forgotten what it looked like. "The Zoroth are not here to talk," Aaron said quietly. "They came for revenge. Long ago, humans stopped their conquest. They never forgot that loss." Rena swallowed hard. "Then they will destroy us too." "Not if we stand together," Aaron replied. "You gave me life again. Now I will give you what my people once gave the stars. Hope." He turned and walked toward the council hall. The Niveran leaders argued among themselves, their voices loud and full of fear. Some wanted to surrender the human. Others wanted to flee to the underground cities. No one wanted to fight. Aaron entered the hall. The noise stopped. Everyone looked at him. He was wearing a repaired battlesuit, old but strong. His voice filled the room. "You cannot run from this," he said. "The Zoroth will not stop after they take me. They will take your world, your freedom, and your future. You have one choice. Stand and fight. Not for me, but for yourselves." The council head, an old alien with pale skin, spoke in a trembling voice. "We do not fight. We have no soldiers, no weapons. We are a people of peace." Aaron's eyes were steady. "Peace means nothing without strength to protect it. You do not need to be soldiers. You need to remember what courage feels like. I can teach you." For a long moment, silence filled the room. Then Rena stepped forward. "I will fight," she said. Her voice was clear. "If one of us must learn, let it be me." Her courage broke the silence. Others began to stand one by one. Soon the hall filled with voices of agreement. The council finally nodded. "Then teach us, human," said the old leader. "Teach us to defend our home." That night, under the pale moons of Navarra, Aaron gathered hundreds of volunteers on the open fields outside the city. Most were scientists, miners, and workers. None had held a weapon before. Aaron looked at them and saw fear in their eyes, but also something else, a spark of determination. He began the training. He taught them how to move, how to stay calm, how to protect each other. He told them that fighting was not about killing. It was about standing your ground for what was right. His words carried power because they came from a man who had already lived through the end of his own people. Rena trained beside the others. She was tired and sore, but she refused to give up. When she stumbled, Aaron helped her to her feet. "Every fall makes you stronger," he said. The days passed quickly. The Zoroth ships remained in orbit, watching and waiting. They sent messages demanding the surrender of the human, but Navarra stayed silent. Aaron was preparing them for the storm, using his knowledge of old human machines. He repaired several ancient defense drones and turrets hidden in the city's archives. With Rina's help, they powered them up. The skies above Navarra began to fill with shields and gun platforms. The people of Navarra started to believe they had a chance. But Aaron knew the truth. When the Zoroth attacked, their numbers would be far greater. The only thing that could save Navarra was unity and courage. On the 7th day, the first strike came. The Zoroth fleet opened fire from orbit. Bolts of red energy rained down on the surface, lighting up the night. Explosions shook the ground as the outer stations were destroyed. Aaron ordered the defense batteries to return fire. Streams of blue light rose into the sky, hitting the enemy ships. "Hold your positions, Aaron," shouted through the comm system. "Do not waste energy. Wait for them to come closer." Rina watched from the control room, her hands flying over the screens. She directed drones and defense units, guiding them as Aaron had taught her. Her heart raced, but she kept her mind clear. Then the Zoroth troops began landing. Dark ships dropped to the ground, releasing waves of armored soldiers. They were taller and stronger than the Niverans, with glowing helmets and heavy weapons. The city trembled under their march. Aaron met them at the front line. He carried a pulse rifle and a blade made of human alloy. Around him stood the new Niveran fighters, shaking but ready. "Remember what I told you?" Aaron said. "Courage is not about being fearless. It is about standing even when you are afraid." The battle began. Aaron moved like lightning, dodging enemy fire and striking with precision. Every move was perfect, every strike clean. The Niverans followed his lead. They used the terrain, the cover, and teamwork. Slowly, they began to push the enemy back. The Zoroth commander roared over the comm system, his voice full of hate. "You are the last human. You should have stayed buried," Aaron replied calmly. "Humans never stay buried. We rise again." He charged forward, cutting through the enemy line. Rina watched his signal on the screen, her heart pounding. He was like the heroes of her childhood stories, but real. The battle raged for hours. The Niverans took heavy losses, but they did not retreat. The citizens who once believed only in peace now fought for their freedom. Every time one fell, another stepped forward. Aaron's presence filled them with strength. As dawn broke, the Zoroth retreated to their ships, leaving smoke and fire behind. The Niverans cheered. They had survived the first wave, but Aaron knew it was not over. The main Zoroth flagship was still in orbit, preparing for a full assault. By the 3rd day of fighting, the city was in ruins. Buildings were damaged, power was low, and supplies were running out. Rina barely slept. She stayed at the control center, monitoring signals and helping coordinate survivors. Aaron came to her, his armor scorched and his face tired. "You have done well," he said. "But the final strike is coming. They will attack with everything they have." Rina looked at him with worry. "We cannot stop them, can we?" Aaron smiled faintly. "We can. I found something in the old wreck. A reactor core from a human warship. I can use it to overload the Zoroth flagship. It will end the fight." Her eyes widened. "That will kill you," shook his head. "It will save your world." Rina stepped forward, grabbing his arm. "You are not just a soldier to us. You are hope. You cannot die like this." Aaron looked at her gently. "Hope is not in me. It is in you and everyone who fought today. That is what humans always wanted, to pass the light forward." She wanted to argue, but she saw in his eyes that he had already made his choice. Aaron entered the old human ship once more, wearing his full armor. He repaired the reactor and linked it to the enemy's signal. When the Zoroth launched their final attack, he piloted the ship into orbit. The battle in space was fierce. Niveran defense ships followed his lead, covering him as he flew straight toward the flagship. Laser fire lit the darkness. Aaron's ship shook, metal burning under the pressure. He activated the comm and spoke to Rina one last time. "Tell them to live free. Tell them the humans were real." Rina's voice broke. "Come back, Aaron. Please." He smiled sadly. If I cannot, then look to the stars. That is where I will be." He pushed the reactor to full power and steered the ship directly into the enemy flagship. A white light filled the sky. The explosion was massive, brighter than the sun. Every Zoroth ship near it was torn apart by the shockwave. From the surface, the people of Navarra watched the sky turn gold. The enemy fleet vanished, and silence followed. Hours later, Rena stood on the ruins of the old lab, staring at the horizon. She held a small piece of Aaron's armor that had fallen back to the planet. The wind blew softly, carrying the smell of smoke and metal. The council declared victory, but no one celebrated. Everyone knew who had made it possible. Statues were built in Aaron's honor, not as a god, but as a symbol of courage. Rena often spoke to young Neverans, telling them about the human who had saved them. She told them how he taught them to be strong, how he showed them that peace and strength must live together. Many years later, when the stars above Navarra shone brightly, Rena would look up and whisper, "You were not a legend, Aaron. You were real. And because of you, we remember who we can be." The story of Aaron spread across the galaxy. Other races heard it and felt something awaken inside them. The spirit of humanity, once thought lost, lived in every heart that dared to stand and fight for hope. The human warrior was gone, but his legacy remained forever.